for our 8th webinar. Alhamdulillah, we have covered important topics so far for COVID-19, trying to cover many aspects. Today, we are going to touch upon another important aspect. As you know, that obstetrics care cannot stop. Lockdown or no lockdown, it will have to continue. So how to best obstetric care, keeping in view the safety precautions for both the patients and the healthcare workers. So we're going to talk about some of these aspects today. So the first presenter is Dr. Shazia Fakhr. She is the Chief Obstetric and Gynecology at Shifa International Hospital, and she's going to talk about the experience and challenges during COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Shazia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ejaz, for the generous introduction. My today's topic is experience and challenges during COVID-19 pandemic, which were faced by the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And as much has already been said about the management of a COVID positive pregnant patient, and there are so many papers, even RCOG guidelines are there. So in this presentation, our main objective is to discuss to share our experiences, which we have with COVID positive patient at Shifa International Hospital, and the challenges which this pandemic has imposed on our current medical practices, and the strategies that we have adopted to overcome those challenges. Okay. So this is a brief introduction of COVID pandemic, which you all are well aware of. So you know about the virus, you know about the transmission. Until to date, the morbidity is 10.75 million confirmed cases worldwide, with 5.99 million recovered, and 5,18,887 deaths are reported worldwide until today. Pregnant population is a specialized population, and pregnancy being an immunocompromised state, it was initially thought that pregnant population will be affected much more during this pandemic as compared to the general population. But the various studies which has been done so far hasn't proven this. Another thing is that if a pregnant patient contract this infection during the 3rd trimester, then the severity of the symptoms are expected to be much more severe. Similarly, vertical transmission is still a controversial topic. Initially, it was thought that vertical transmission is not possible, as most of the swabs taken from the placenta and the amniotic fluid and the nasopharyngeal swabs from the newborns were negative. But with emergence of certain case reports of presence of IgM antibodies in the newborn babies, the debate again arises whether the vertical transmission is still possible, and it needs to be settled by further studies. Breastfeeding is another controversial topic, but now it is settled that COVID positive patient can breastfeed her child after following certain SOPs. By that time, you all are very much familiar with all these signs and all these symptoms, and there are certain risk factors which predispose pregnant population more prone to those infections, that is increased BMI, age more than 35, Black, Asian and ethnic minority, comorbids including diabetes and hypertension. Recently, UNICEF has generated a report in which they give projection of the expected births in various countries during this COVID pandemic. And Pakistan is expected to have 5 million births during this COVID pandemic. So concerns are there for the safety and the effects which are going to occur on these populations. I will slightly touch the medications which are commonly used as a treatment of COVID-19 patient and their effects on pregnancy. I am not going into detail of the management. Okay. Hydrochloroquine, a time-tested drug We all are well familiar of it, being in a South Asian country and a malaria pandemic country. It has been used in pregnancy and pregnant population as well. But usually it is assumed as a safe drug, but there is a slight risk of damage to the inner lining like retinopathy in the newborn. However, WHO has now certified that HCQs does not result in reduction of mortality of the hospitalized COVID-19 patient compared with the standard care, and even this drug is withdrawn from the trials. Dexamethasone, a corticosteroid, again considered generally a safe drug. However, for maternal impacts are hyperglycemia, glaucoma, cataract, fluid retention, hypertension, weight gain. And in context of trials for COVID-19 in pregnancy, again WHO recommend oral prednisolone or hydrocortisone by IV infusion instead of dexamethasone in critically ill patients or serious patients. Remdesivir, nucleotide analog, which inhibit RNA replication, and certain anaphylaxis and hypersensitivity reactions are associated with it. WHO addressed caution and careful risk-benefit analysis before using the drug. However, when the patient is critically ill, it is always the mother which should be considered. Ivermectin, a category C drug, which is contraindicated in pregnancy and lactation by the FDA, and its use for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 is contraindicated by FDA. Tocilizumab, an immunosuppressant, again a category C drug, and should only be used when the benefits clearly outweigh the risk. There are increased chances of miscarriage and fetal demise. Okay, so now I am going to share OBS and gynae statistics. The COVID positive patients which we encountered during the months of April, May, and June 2020 at Shifa International Hospital. In the month of April, total COVID samples sent were 73, and not a single case was turned out as positive. In May 2020, 113 samples were taken, out of which 10 were COVID positive, 3 had mild symptoms, 7 were asymptomatic, 7 patients out of 10 delivered by SVD, while 3 were end up in emergency C-section, which all were done for obstetric indications. And 1 baby turned out as COVID positive. In June 2020, 190 samples were taken, out of which 19 turned out as COVID positive, 5 patients were symptomatic, and 14 were asymptomatic. 6 were managed conservatively. 5 end up in spontaneous vertex delivery. 6 had elective C-section, and 2 end up in emergency C-section. 1 case was an ICU admission. This patient unfortunately ended up in a maternal mortality. This patient was a case of thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, whose COVID was negative initially. This patient was admitted because of her certain other problems and thrombocytopenia, severe thrombocytopenia, and she has been through multiple transfusion of platelets and plasmapheresis, and then she had undergone splenectomy in the hope to raise her platelet counts. And in the meanwhile, her COVID test was turned out as positive, and she ended up in ICU in critical care, and then she had a fetal demise followed by maternal death. This is the same statistics presented in the form of bar charts for your convenience. Okay, so now we are going to discuss the different challenges which we face as a department and the different strategies which were adopted by the department in collaboration with the hospital administration to overcome all those challenges. There were certain challenges regarding the provision of PPEs. As we all know that with the emergence of pandemic, there was a sudden increase in the demand and then the supply of PPEs. And initially the PPEs were used wisely in the majority in the red zones, like in ER, in critical areas. But then we realized that labor and delivery area is a place where we receive specialized population. Patient come in emergency. Sometimes there was even not a time to take the proper history of the patient. So the demand was made, and we immediately get and ensure the provision of all the PPEs, including the hazmat suits and the face shield for all the healthcare providers in those areas. Then there were certain areas in the labor and delivery suites where maintaining the social distancing was almost impossible. And those are the restroom, resting areas, and dining areas of the doctors. So SOPs were made regarding these problems, and doctors were advised to not to share the same area at the same time to avoid the clustering in the confined place, and new restrooms were identified for the doctors to ensure the social distancing. Education of the doctors regarding the emerging situations, teach them how to act, how to protect themselves, and building their confidence in those difficult times when the news from the social media regarding the exposure and the deaths of the certain doctors were there was a great challenge faced by the hospital and the administration. Resident training was also compromised during the previous couple of months because all the academic classes were suspended, morbidity and mortality meetings were suspended, the OPDs were closed, or when even they were open, their workload was very low, and all the gynecological elective procedure was suspended for a time being. So the resident training was very much compromised during this pandemic period. So we adopt the strategy of resumption of all those classes, tumor boards, morbidity and mortality meetings via Zoom application. Roster adjustment was also a problem because of the suspected or confirmed exposure of a healthcare worker with a patient or a family member. We have to adjust the roster again and again, which was also a very troublesome exercise. Even we have to adjust the rosters for the consultants because of the same reasons. So mental health was a big issue. The most common fear was getting infected by the virus and taking that infection to our family and children. So that was a big mental fear faced by the doctor. Similarly, news related to the deaths of the doctor from abroad and then from the local vicinities added to the stress of the doctors who are performing the duties in the high alert areas. Another challenge was the uncertainty of the situation. This uncertainty added further to the anxiety of the doctors. Even there were pressure from the family and the peers, which increased the stress of the doctors so much so that some of them have to quit their jobs. So seminars and sessions were arranged to deal with the psychological strain, and Employee Health Clinic conduct live sessions, and our psychologists and psychiatrists were actively involved in promoting all those sessions and conducting all those face-to-face consultations. Then it is very important to give standard compassionate care to the pregnant patients while minimizing the exposure of the healthcare staff. So how to tackle this problem? We adopted the idea of telemedicine clinics and hybrid clinic for those patients who need to seek medical advice and to be seen in person by the consultant. I will discuss the details of these clinics afterwards. Then another problem was what to do after a post-exposure with a COVID suspected or COVID positive patient. This was a big challenge. So immediate disinfection of the area by calling the ID team, assessment of the people and the group of the people who are being exposed, reporting to the employee health clinic, and making the exposed team in quarantine according to the assessment of their risk, whether they fall in high risk or low risk exposure. Then again, it started a cascade of events of readjustment of the roster, taking care of the mental health of the exposed team, and back to work policy of that team. There are certain challenges which are faced by the doctors in relation to the patients, out of which number one is the non-adherence to the SOPs. As we all are very well aware that even now, our patients and their attendants are not in a habit of making having a mask over their face. So provision of mask at the entrance of the hospital was made mandatory for all the patient and attendants entering into the hospital area. Then initially, the patient were hiding their symptoms, their travel history. Even if they know their COVID status, they hide this status and they don't expose their history, maybe because of the fear that they will be put in governmental quarantine or something like that, or because of the social pressures. So detailed and targeted history questionnaire was evolved so that such cases should not be missed. Then we started hybrid appointments for the hybrid clinics to tackle the needs of those patients who need to be seen physically by the consultants. But this again generated a big problem that the patients start coming in the clinics in clusters where the social distancing was impossible to maintain in the waiting area. So we made a strict check on the unnecessary hybrid appointments. And as a departmental policy, we started giving the hybrid appointments only on the request of the consultant by those patients whom consultant want and need to see physically. Otherwise, rest of the consultation were done on telemedicine. Initially, the reporting time was long as we run single batch in 24 hours. But thanks to our pathology department, now we have a capacity of running 3 tests in a day so that the reporting time has been shortened. And now we can have a report quite early so that we can transfer the patient accordingly. We will discuss it later on, so that we can transfer the patient accordingly, according to their respective floors, and manage the patient according to their COVID status. Being a tertiary care hospital, we used to take non-book patients from the periphery, within the city and outside the city. But with the increase in the number of positive cases and influx of patients within the hospital, we have to make a strict policy not to take direct referrals from the outside hospitals and cater our book patient, and unless and until there is a dire emergency of life and death for the mother and the baby. Similarly, to decrease the influx of patients within the hospital and to maintain the social distancing possible, 1 attendant with 1 patient policy was made, and it is strictly being complied. The most important challenge which our doctors face when they break the bad news of being a COVID positive status to a patient. Most of our patients are asymptomatic. So when such sort of news is broken down, they are in denial. They say that report is wrong. You just want to make money to generate those reports, and so and so. And they want to get LAMA immediately. So their counseling is a hectic job, which was faced by our resident and consultants. Transfer of COVID positive patient within the hospital. Again, they were concerned that when we transferred such patient for any need like CT, MRI, or toward the operating rooms, hospital made a proper policy regarding such sort of transfer. Designated corridors were assigned through which that patient will pass, and a designated team will escort that patient, which include a security guard who will clear the path in front so that the unnecessary contacts can be avoided. And it also includes a sanitary worker or healthcare, housekeeping worker who will clean the area from which the patient has passed, including the lifts and the buttons and all the handles and doors to minimize the spread of infection. With the emergence of the positive cases in the labor ward, we were in need of more negative pressure delivery rooms. We already have one, and we try to convert the rest of the rooms also into negative pressure one, and we are still on negotiation regarding this matter. Then the biggest challenge was the plan for continuity of care of those pregnant patients who are COVID positive, but they are not about to deliver, and they need a continuity of care for their pregnant status. For all the elective cesareans, which are about to be done, but the status come out as COVID positive, and for all the urgent gynecological surgeries of the COVID positive patients. So we plan a strategy for the pregnant antenatal care, telemedicine and hybrid clinics were there, and we counsel the patient that in case of need, they can come to the emergency. For all the elective cesarean sections, which are a bit sort of urgent one, and for all the urgent gynecological surgeries of COVID positive patients. The status of the patient is determined, the need for urgency is determined, and if possible, those cases were deferred for a week or two. Otherwise, they will be planned according to the policy for the COVID positive patients. Now with the emerging scenarios, we have faced another problem of return of COVID positive patients who are seeking health care after being placed in quarantine for 14 days. How to address those patients, how to deal with them, how to check their status, whether they are seropositive or not. This is still in debate. Initially, we do the PCR, but now we are coming to the serology of these patients, and we are making policies for such sort of patients, how to handle them. Okay. There are certain challenges which are also faced by the patient during this pandemic. And among them, the number one challenge was an unnecessary increase in cesarean section rate. Although it has been stated by the various studies that the number of the critical population, pregnant population, is very low. One study has quoted 4.7% of the critical patient of all the pregnant patients. But the increase in rise of the cesarean rate is very, very much. In the BMJ, it was reported as 59%. And in another study published in Acta Obstetrica Scandinavia, up till 91% of the cases were delivered by elective cesarean section. So these patients need much more counseling than the normal population in normal days. And we have to take care of the mental health and fears which these patients are having in these days, because they are also in a stress and anxiety. What will happen, how this pandemic will affect them and their baby, and what will be, whether the healthcare will be available at the time of need, the doctor will be available, the hospital will be open. Most of the patients are booked at some small units providing general and routine obstetric care, which are closed nowadays. So there is a constant fear of seeking the health care from on part of these patients. Okay. So in our outpatient department, we develop telemedicine clinics, and you can see teleconsultation can be done via video link. The patient is sitting conveniently at their home, and doctor is there in their office, and they are conducting the telemedical medicine sessions. Then for those patients who require to be seen by the consultant in person, hybrid clinics were established. In hybrid clinic, again, to minimize the exposure and face-to-face contact of the doctor, a policy was adopted that history will be taken on telephone. Although the patient is sitting in the same area, in the same vicinity, but history will be taken on the phone, and the examination will be done in a separate room where a nurse and a doctor having full PPEs are available, and they make the patient comfortable, and consultant, if want, can come and examine the patient so that exposure of all the healthcare professional will be minimized. And most of the assessments were done on outpatient basis. All the elective surgeries, for all elective surgeries, anesthesia consultations were arranged on telemedicine clinics, and COVID testing was made mandatory for all the elective surgeries, and for all the induction of labors, we perform COVID testing before calling the patient for induction of labor to minimize the exposure of the healthcare worker. You can see in the first pic is a pic of telemedicine, and the second is a hybrid clinic where the patient is sitting in front of the computer and she can see her doctor and comfortably talk to her. And if the doctor wants to examine the patient, they can come in the clinic in the same room and examine her. This is the picture from our labor room. It is a big area, and you can see this is our doctor who is wearing full PPEs. And in labor room, we train all the staff. As for COVID testing, we made COVID testing mandatory for all the emergency admissions. And COVID sampling training was done for all the doctors and the paramedical staff. Similarly, the doffing and donning drills were arranged for the doctors and the paramedical staff. As we receive non-booked or patient in emergency whose COVID status is uncertain, so we arbitrarily divide our labor room area into COVID negative area and the area where the patient are retained whose results are awaited. Similarly, separate delivery suites were assigned for the COVID negative patient who are placed in a positive pressure room, and patients who are highly suspected of having a COVID infection or who are COVID positive are placed in a negative pressure delivery area. Similarly, usually peace team came in the same room to receive the baby and resuscitate the neonate. But after the onset of this pandemic, we arrange the resuscitator in a separate room so that exposure of the peace team can be minimized. It was a general policy that minimal staff exposure for a COVID positive patient, a single doctor and nurse is assigned in further delivery room. And early discharge can be made so that minimum exposure of the healthcare worker can be possible. Okay, you can see this is the negative pressure room with delivery suite, and these are the PEDS team waiting for the baby in a separate room with the resuscitator prepared for the baby. Okay, this is our negative pressure room in the delivery suite, and this is a self-designed screen which is made by our biomedical department, and this plastic or water impermeable curtain is there, and height is adjustable, and this will ensure and give a sense of security to the healthcare provider who are delivering the baby, because at the time of the parturition, the risk of aerosol generation is much more high. So time?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 minutes. Okay. So I'm not going into the detail of this chart but yeah, it is a complex one, but I want to briefly describe that when we receive a COVID positive patient, if it is a dire emergency, we will assess the patient, take the sample for the swab for the COVID testing, and shift the patient immediately. If the status is known as being COVID negative, the patient will be shifted to the routine theater, and if she is a COVID positive, she will immediately, or the result is awaited and status is uncertain, the patient will be shifted to negative pressure OR. Similarly, for patient who come in normal labor, again the swab is taken and result will be awaited until the time the result arrive. Patient will be shifted in isolated room. If she is highly suspected for a COVID positive status, she will be shifted to the negative pressure room. Otherwise, till the results awaited, she will be in isolation. And if patient is highly suspected COVID or COVID positive, she will be shifted to the negative pressure room straight away, where multidisciplinary team will be involved. Maternal monitoring will be done following the modified obstetric early warning signs. Cardiotopography will be arranged, and epidural will be offered, and labor will be managed according to the standard obstetric guidelines. Our doctor in complete preparation and with complete PPEs ready to do the surgery. And this, in the second picture, the surgery in progress, where the obstetric team and the anesthesia team are having full PPEs. Okay. So this is the obstetric care which has been delivered on the floors, and you can see the nursing assistant who are sitting outside the room so that the unnecessary exposure is avoided. Okay. After the delivery, again, there's a dilemma that where to dispose of these patients, because the patient disposition is very important. Patient get delivered before the result of COVID status was known. So we make a clinical decision unit where these patients were temporarily shifted till their COVID result arise. And if a patient has a single room, then the patient will be shifted to that private room in isolation. Why it is so important to act early on COVID-19? You can see by acting promptly and timely, you can change your graph and you can shift your peak from badly treated patient with high mortality and morbidity to well-treated patient with low mortality. So the take-home message is we should plan and prepare proactively, as no scenario is a final one in this pandemic. Thank you very much. Can I show the video? Okay. So we made a small video which is showing this is the entrance toward our labor and delivery suite. This is the reception area. Doors are opened by RFID card, where the security guard is there to check the influx of the patient. She will receive the patient. If the patient or the attendant is not wearing the mask, she will provide them with the mask and making the hand sanitization. Then again, this is our triage room, which again opened through the RFID cards. In the triage room, a nurse well equipped with all the PPEs come, receive the patient. Again, hand sanitization is practiced. Now we are entering from the triage room to the labor and delivery suites. It's a big area. We have 3 rooms which can turn into isolation rooms. They are covered with the glass doors, and you can see this area. This whole labor ward is designed so that fortunately that we can divide it into 2 areas arbitrarily. One area where the results of the COVID patients are awaited, for the COVID results are awaited, and the other area where the patients with the known COVID status being negative were retained. If the patient is COVID positive, she will immediately and directly shifted to the negative pressure labor suite. Operating rooms are in close vicinity with our labor ward. These are the positive pressure rooms. This is the self-designed screen. And now we are entering in our negative pressure room, where the nurse is there wearing full PPE sitting outside, and another one who is there giving care to the patient. Continuous disinfection of the area is in progress. This is the donning area, where when the consultant come for the delivery, they can enter through this area after wearing the complete PPEs. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Dr. Shazia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And thank you very much, Dr. Shazia, Dr. Ejaz, and all the listeners and their patients who are listening us. And because we are discussing the preparation for obstetric patient during COVID pandemic, but I'll cover the anesthesiology and operating room point of view. And very small, I'll try to reduce, as our gynecologist took the time and she treated the anesthesiologist world over as being treated. And that's why I'll try to reduce this in a minimum time. The management of obstetric patient infected with coronavirus disease 2019 due to human-to-human transmission of severe acute respiratory distress requires quite unique consideration from caring for critical ill pregnant and postpartum women to protecting healthcare workers from exposure during the delivery and hospitalization, healthcare providers, personnel, family members, and beyond. In principle, the clinical characteristics reported in pregnant women with confirmed COVID-19 infection in China has been consistent with those reported among non-pregnant adults, as it has been discussed with in gynecology, Dr. Shazia's presentation, with better maternal and neonatal outcome with COVID-19 infection compared with 2002-3 as in SARS outbreak with COVID-1. I can just show you the one picture for the refreshing the mind. This is our operating room for near the delivery obstetric suite, and we have 3 operating rooms, and one is the picture you can see. We'll try to make it pleasant for the patient and more comfortable with you. You can see the sceneries and all these things. But I'll say the challenges as a tertiary care hospital to identify and anticipate the problem ahead of time, making a policy for the hospital, developing a team in anesthesia, operating room and labor room, and a close coordination with them, role of team leaders and their members. We divided the facility into 2 areas for suspected confirmed patients. These patients, the negative pressure room was reserved for these patients, and for clean tested patient, it means that the PCR is negative, and then identify the need of every area, though we had a negative pressure room and labor room as well as it was mentioned. Consideration for testing on admission. Screening criteria for COVID-19 infection usually include the following: fever, cough, shortness of breath, diarrhea, and any possible exposure to COVID-19. Universal testing with real-time, the PCR, and especially in high prevalence. You can see a picture of an area. We can see that this is the area where we are moving towards the negative pressure room. And if a patient, COVID-19 positive women placed in an isolation room, airborne infection isolation room, single patient negative pressure room with a minimum of 6 air changes per hour should be used if performing of aerosolization or the procedure, for example, anticipation, for example, I would say, if the intubation are supposed to be done in these cases. And the system preparations, and why it is too much important, I would like to emphasize on it: a multidisciplinary team of anesthesiologist, obstetrician, labor and delivery nurses, neonatologists, critical care experts, infectious disease and infection control experts, employee health services, environmental health services, and telemedicine services create and implement protocol to support the management of patients with COVID-19 infection in the setting of a labor and delivery unit. So many people are involved, and when we are going to complete such type of the task or assignment, we have to thank all these stakeholders who are directly or indirectly involved to provide this facility all the time to the patient. Patient evaluation and monitoring, still it is a challenge, evaluating limited unnecessary encounters, including the vital signs, physical examination, review of laboratory tests. Early multidisciplinary collaboration should be arranged to determine the level of care, fetal monitoring, and delivery plan. Avoiding urgent cesarean delivery to reduce the risk of general anesthesia and provide exposure during transfer to the operating room. We can see a room of operating room, and here a laboring patient with active COVID-19 infection. The preferable part, the mainstay of the obstetric care, even with the concurrent COVID-19 infection, will see the neuroaxial labor analgesia, we will call it as a labor, for example, the epidural, and anesthesia for cesarean delivery. Anesthesiologists are at a significant risk for viral exposure during endotracheal intubation of the COVID-19 infected patient, as world over. For example, I mentioned that we are providing the epidural analgesia for the delivering patient, and in general, subarachnoid block or combined spinal epidural or epidural for cesarean delivery too. Though I just touched, there is of course it is a challenge in utero infection during the 23rd days between maternal infection and delivery 23rd days later, supported by elevated IgGM antibodies, which are not transferred to the fetus via the placenta. And the postpartum considerations is there, as I mentioned very early, appropriate isolation of mother and child on the postpartum unit. And what are the protocol for emergency cases? All dire emergencies are considered positive for COVID-19. All emergencies taken to operating room within 10 minutes to 1 hour are considered positive. All urgent cases taken to OR within 6 hours will have mandatory COVID testing and surgery performed after results. The operating room preparation, I'll just briefly say that preferably the negative pressure room, we have got this facility luckily, use of the portable HEPA filters near the patient, and we have also the HEPA filters in our operating rooms. It minimize the equipment inside the room and the doors to be kept closed during the procedure. OR must be restricted and isolated for everyone. Same OR or same anesthesia workstation to be used for all COVID cases for duration of epidemic. You can see an operating room. I can show you the HEPA filter on the, you can see that I've mentioned it. And what are the PPE generally? What should be the, when we talk about the PPE for operation theater, what is it? And it includes the hazmat suit, N95 mask. We also ensure that over a surgical mask should also be worn or should be taken over the N95 mask, protective goggles, face shield, waterproof shoe cover and long boots, sterile disposable waterproof gown and disposable gloves. And this is an important reminder that how we can reduce the reduce the exposure. And because at present, approximately 3-4 months has passed and we don't know exactly for how long we have to live with it. And that's why I would like to emphasize on that the disposable surgical drapes, donning of the PPE occurs outside the operating room. Only sterile gown and gloves should be donned inside the operating room after hand antisepsis. Maintain the PPE supply, dedicated equipment, anesthesia and medication carts and trolleys, defined role of each team member with detailed education of the OR staff. Runner outside of the OR will retrieve the medication and the transfer of the patient through the designated SS pathway. And especially we have, as it mentioned, that special routes are defined for waste management and PPE handling and disposables. And you can see, for example, the testing. I'll just show you the screening criteria for COVID-19 infection followed, and that every patient who is coming to the hospital for urgent surgery, as I mentioned earlier, and the universal setting with real time, the PCR is important. Emergency cases move to operating room with precautions as that of the positive case. And here we can see the operating room, the negative pressure room, one room within the labor room, as already mentioned, and it was there, but one room near the labor room suite at B2, where we have our labor room, a room is converted into the negative pressure theater. And for all these surgeries with the urgent and emergency, with the test is awaited, these patients are being catered there. And you can see the restricted areas, how we have placed various signages and how to teach the people that still there is various signages we can see on this area. And the system preparation is also very much important. The anesthesiologist, the obstetrician, the labor and delivery nurses, neonatologists, critical care experts, infectious disease and infection control experts, employees health services, environmental health services and telemedicine services. And that's why I particularly want to mention at this time, all these things are being these preparations are done. And the neonatal resuscitation room within the donning area, as we can see, there is a cart is there. And the patient evaluation and monitoring, evaluation with limited unnecessary encounters. Here we can see we have developed a special an area of that. You can see on that area that person is, we have the limited the two areas. If they are going to encounter with each other, only the accesses you can see through the window. And avoiding the urgent cesarean as per obstetrician decision. And for example, the labor patients with active COVID-19 infection, preferably the neuroaxial labor analgesia, like we can see the epidural, and the anesthesia for cesarean delivery, still we focus on spinal, subarachnoid, or the CSE. And these are still the interventions, the vertical transmission, the postpartum consideration for mother, for neonate, and isolation of the mother and the child. And you can see the donning area, and now we can say the person is preparing himself for that to enter in the operating room, and general anesthesia guidelines and the standard precautions as per COVID positive protocol policy at Shifa International Hospital is being observed. And you can see the donning area, doffing area, and shower area. These are the specific things, all separate and fully equipped areas that we have managed. Intraoperative anesthesia and postoperative care, I'll briefly tell that all disposable items, supplies, double filter used to inspiratory and expiratory hoses, if we are going to administer the general anesthesia, and the routine post-op care with precaution inside the operating room, patient will be sent directly to the floor or designated area. The patient is retained in the operating room, and then assigned staff will wear the PP, and all specimen will be sent to the lab in proper container and double bag precautions. Because this is all these specimens, when they have to send from the operating room, the precautions is very much important. You can see the doffing area, and after the procedure, and the signage can be seen, and the waste management and measures, because every operating room, when we are doing the surgery, whether it is cesarean section or somewhere other surgeries, very much important step is that the dedicated housekeeping staff wearing the proper PP, you can see the person, you can see the color of the bags. All items used in procedure will be disposed in biohazard container. The yellow bag is there, and the solidifier used in all fluid waste and disposed in yellow bag. You can see that. All waste will be disposed immediately from the operating room. And as I mentioned that I was reduced and took less time, once you choose hope, anything is possible. And thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Excellent, Dr. Shazia and Dr. Ashraf. I think we will go on to the question directly. So let me start. We start with Dr. Nausheen's questions. I think there are 3 questions. Maybe we can answer that in one go. And so what is the percentage of transmission of COVID-19 to neonate during delivery? Which mode of delivery can prevent transmission? And any congenital disorder during pregnancy due to COVID-19? Dr. Shazi, you want to answer this?
Okay, so transmission to the neonate is not certain at the time of delivery because the placenta, the amniotic fluid, and the vaginal secretions were all turned out to be negative in the studies performed until now. Direct vertical transmission is a possibility with some emerging evidences along with the case reports, but we are not sure about it. To say one mode of delivery is preferable over the other, we can't say this because cesarean section should only be performed on obstetric indication. And a vaginal delivery is as safe as a C-section regarding the transmission of infection. What was the second question? Third question, congenital disorder. Okay. So there haven't been any studies performed until now which address your question, like congenital disorders, if the COVID infection is encountered during the first or the second trimester. This question needs studies which will be performed and will be published after 9 months of this infection, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think your fetal transmission is not described yet, correct? And I think this is the studies have not documented this, and we know the most of the transmission is post delivery, correct?
There was one COVID positive baby in your ICU,
Oh.
But still we haven't know whether what was the mode of transmission
Yeah.
in
Okay.
that baby.
Yeah. So we don't know. We need to
So
have
there
a.
are still controversies regarding this matter.
Okay. So maybe we'll know the answer
But
down the
I
line.
think what she want to ask is whether the infection will be transmitted more. There is more incidence of transmission of infection while performing a vaginal delivery as compared to a cesarean section. Yes, the virus is there in the feces of the patient, and there is a risk of transmission of infection to the healthcare worker. But for the transmission of that infection to the baby, we don't know until now. And cesarean and normal delivery both are should be done according to the standard obstetric guidelines.
Thank you. And even though there is some paper I was just reading this morning as well, that maybe even if you test PCR positive in a baby after delivery, it may mean not active infection, but rather colonization. One question, please mention the drugs contraindicated during pregnancy, category C, that you mentioned, Dr. Shazi.
Actually,
and what is the best drug used in pregnant COVID patient now?
okay. So lopinavir and ritonavir, these are antiproteases, and their combination is relatively safe in pregnancy. And rest of the drugs, you can see my presentation. Remdesivir, ivermectin was contraindicated by the FDA, but remdesivir, dexamethasone, hydrocortisone, yes, they can be used if the need arises in a critical patient, because whenever you are, when the patient is critical, the mother can do whatever is in the better chances of the patient, so that the patient can have a chance of survival in those circumstances. Baby doesn't matter.
And is COVID infection dangerous for pregnant women more than non-pregnant?
Okay, so this point was also already covered in my presentation, that pregnant and non-pregnant population, there is no discrimination regarding the incidence of getting infection between the pregnant and non-pregnant population, although initially it was thought that the pregnant population will be affected much more. Similarly, what was the second one?
How is the infection dangerous for pregnant women?
Dangerous for pregnant women, yes. If a pregnant patient is exposed to COVID infection in the third trimester, the chances of getting a severe illness are much more higher as compared to the infection in the first and second trimesters.
Okay. What are the precautionary measures taken for breastfeeding?
Okay. So breastfeeding is not contraindicated, but the same precautions as the general SOPs and guidelines for taking the self-care and wearing the PPEs, minimum a face mask and hand washing techniques should be adopted by the patient before handling the baby. And baby shouldn't be made to wear a mask because it will lead to suffocation of the baby. So mother should disinfect, hand wash, and wear a face mask, and minimum handling of the baby should be done. She should take the baby, breastfeed them, or if the mother is critically ill, the milk can be expressed, and expressed breast milk can be given to the baby, because certain studies have now proved that there is no transmission of virus via the breast milk.
Yeah, correct. There is just a recent paper by WHO came yesterday or day before talking about breastfeeding, and they've also said that breastfeeding should continue, rooming in should continue, but you should take precautions, which includes wearing a mask, wearing hand washing, and putting the baby in a separate cot or minimum handling. And yeah. So the other thing, question is, what are the effects on the fetus? What does the study or your experience suggest? And if the mother is positive, are there chances that the fetal will be positive also? And third, you're related or are related. Prognosis, outcome, on the fetus according to trimester of pregnancy patient get infected?
These questions will be answered after some time regarding the effect on the fetus and the transmit. Right now we can only answer the question of fetus getting infected, but we haven't seen the vertical transmission until now in our cases. And although there is a possibility and certain case reports are there in which the IgM antibodies were positive in the babies, and the presence of IgM antibodies which can't cross the placenta. So presence of IgM antibodies in the neonate means that they are generated by the baby. So this needs further studies to answer these questions.
What are the reasons for increased elective cesarean section in COVID patients?
I don't know, maybe initially it was a fear. They want to save the patient. Fear of?
What is the reason for increase of elective cesarean section in COVID patients?
Yes. The increased rate of cesarean section, I don't know why it was increased, because in our hospital, the policy is to do a C-section for the standard obstetric indications. And you can see the data in which I mentioned there are 6 elective C-sections of COVID positive patients. These were the elective cesareans which were planned for those patients because of being previous 2 scar or previous 3 scar or some placenta previa, whatever was the reason. It was an elective cesarean, and when we do the COVID testing for that patient, she turned out to be COVID positive. So that's why those elective cesareans were done. Otherwise, there is no indication to do an elective cesarean for a COVID positive patient.
In postpartum care, incidence of postpartum depression given the added mental health stresses, have you found any increase?
I haven't found such sort of mental depression because most of our patients were asymptomatic. Half of them were in denial that their report is wrong and they are perfectly all right. So they were very happy. They got the baby, they went on LAMA, or they discharged as soon as possible on their own request. And I haven't seen such a sort of symptom in them.
And have they come back and they found anything?
Yes, they come on follow-up on telemedicine. We call them on telemedicine. And they haven't expressed any concerns regarding their disease. And they were all asymptomatic. The babies were all asymptomatic.
Okay. In hybrid clinic, does the doctor and nurse have to change PP after every physical consultation?
No. The doctor, yes, the nurse is assigned for that hybrid room. She do not change the PPEs again and again. Although she changed the gloves whenever a new patient comes, all the sheets and we use that big tissue, and we spread it over the examination couches. So those things were changed. Disposable things were changed. But yes, she don't change her glasses or her face shield or her cap and PPs. Okay. Rest of the PPs.
Doctor will change because if
doctor come when she examine the patient again. If she is in touch or the patient is highly suspected of being a COVID positive case, then of course everybody change everything. Otherwise, for asymptomatic cases, no, it's not possible. Yeah, standard precautions are there, like the hand washing, hand hygiene, changing the gloves, and changing the rest of the disposables.
Symptoms in pregnant women, and what about the regular appointments and examination, and how can we conduct routine scans in pregnancy?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are the symptoms in pregnant women?
What are the symptoms in pregnant women?
And what about the regular appointments and examination, and how can we conduct routine scans in pregnancy?
Okay. So symptoms are the same as in the rest of the population, and it is difficult to differentiate between these two symptoms because the same symptoms of breathlessness and cough and can be there in any patient because of any cause. But this era of pandemic, we have to consider every patient presenting with those symptoms to be a COVID positive until proven otherwise. Number one. Number two, social distancing, personal protective equipment should all be used whenever you encounter with a patient having those symptoms. There is no symptom between the pregnant population regarding the COVID between the pregnant population and the general population. The symptoms are same of the breathlessness, cough, fever, and sometimes even diarrhea. Okay, No, routine antenatal care. Okay. Yeah. For the routine antenatal care, I already shared our experiences that we established the telemedicine clinic, and if a patient need to be seen physically, like in the third trimester, or if the patient complain of any sort of obstetric complaint, like she has any bleeding or leaking or having decreased fetal movement, and we want to see her in person, then we call that patient in hybrid clinic. Ultrasonographies can be performed by the by the radiologist, wearing the full PPEs and making the patient wear a face mask, and again, following the standard disinfection guidelines.
Thank you. Maybe Dr. Ashraf, because I need to ask you as well. Is the CDU exclusive for gynae patients? And please, positive pressure room is used for confirmed non-COVID patients?
And first thing, I will comment on that. All the operating rooms by design, they are positive pressure rooms. And for example, I mentioned that for the COVID positive patients, we converted in obstetric suite, one room is a negative pressure room, for example. And particularly for gynae surgeries, if they are positive, the same room is being used.
Dr. Shazia, again, question is about azithromycin, is it safe? And the other question is also, which corticosteroids are the safest in pregnant female? IV form better than oral form? And is Leaflox safe for pregnant female? And which antibiotic of choice for pregnant female? So specific drugs and the steroids. Maybe you can chip in and I will see if you can. Yeah, okay. I'll check you as well.
Okay. Okay. So yes, erythromycin is safe in pregnancy, and you can give it. Similarly, depending on the need, we can Leaflox. Leaflox is a category B, I think, and ID consultant will comment on better on this. And what was the other question?
For steroids.
Steroids. Yes. Okay. So steroids. Steroids can only be used. We as an obstetrician use steroids for the fetal lung maturity, and we use intramuscular dexamethasone or betamethasone. Whatever your practice is, you can use it still in this pandemic safely, even the patient is positive or the negative. If the patient is critically ill and in need of corticosteroids, this is the decision which need to be made by the healthcare provider of that patient in critical area, because the patient used to be on so many drugs that this decision has to be made by the critical care provider, like the pulmonologist, and in collaboration with ID consultant.
Thank you. So I think you need to understand that most of the antibiotics that we use in pregnancy are safe. So like penicillins and cephalosporins are okay, they are perfectly fine, and also need. So it depends on the situation. For example, which certain are contraindicated or should not be given, like aminoglycoside, pyrazinamide, that I can think of, and some other that Dr. Shazia mentioned. How much, okay, the question is very comprehensive, very good. Dr. Shazia, these are protocols you are following in tertiary care. But what if a gynecologist or obstetrician is running a private clinic? There are more challenges as the staff is not much trained there.
Actually, this pandemic was as new for us as for anybody else. Our staff was also not trained regarding these matters. The basic problem is training of the staff, making them aware of the SOPs regarding the disinfection, hand hygiene, self-care, and care of the patient. Our aim and objective should be to give a compassionate and comprehensive care to the patient while keeping our staff safe and secure from encountering those infections. So yes, there is a challenge. We also face this challenge, and everybody should take some painstaking and train their staff so that all these problems can be avoided.
So I think the bottom line, the bottom message is that there is no shortcut. You have to educate, and this is a good time to tell them that you are at risk of other infection, not COVID, because COVID it just came and we had much more pressing infections going around and with us for a long time. The other question is how much is the risk of transmission from a COVID positive mother to her newborn baby while nursing? So I think we already answered that. Very minimal if you are taking precautions. Most of them, these transmission will occur postnatal, and fortunately, the outcome in these neonates have so far been documented. Outcome has been so good. Dr. Rula is asking about vertical transmission of COVID-19 is possible, and if such suspected, how much mother and child should stay at hospital, and where is we have the facility for neonates COVID-19. I think we have answered the very little transmission, and
certain case reports are emerged regarding this vertical transmission. So they need to be clarified with further large-scale studies.
And the other thing, if the baby and mother is well, they can be discharged safely if they are okay to go. And as Dr. Shazi already told you about, that most of our baby mothers are in denial. They want to discharge as soon as possible, and follow-up showed that they have done well so far. And of course, if a neonate comes to the NICU, we have the provisions of keeping them in a separate place with separate rooms, negative pressure, and testing them and observing them, and then discharging if indicated. Dr. Monette is asking, is COVID-19 considered an indication for C-section? No, I think we already answered. Would you kindly upload
Just a minute, I just want to add a few things. Yes, if the patient is critically ill and you want to improve the ventilation of that patient, then it is important to expedite her delivery. And for expedition of delivery, it is not necessary to deliver her via cesarean section. But if you anticipate a prolonged labor, or labor is not progressing, or the patient is primary with a very premature gestational age where you expect that it will take too long to induce her, and patient is critically ill, then yes, you can evacuate the uterus as soon as possible to make her ventilation comfortable and possible.
Other question is, please upload your slides. I think we will do that. Yes, we always do that. And what are the complications concerned with COVID positive pregnant female? Complications with COVID-19.
Alhamdulillah, we haven't seen any complication because most of the patients which we mentioned symptomatic were having only mild symptoms, and most of the patients were asymptomatic in our scenario. Only one patient which ended up in maternal death was already a sick patient because of her known status of thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. She has been through plasmapheresis, through multiple platelet transfusion. In the end, we have to go for splenectomy, and then she became a COVID positive case and she ended up in a mortality. Otherwise, we haven't seen any critically ill patient until now, alhamdulillah.
Sarah is asking about IgM antibodies in mother are not transferred to babies within 23 days, question mark. That means they are transferred to the fetus after 23 days. Very simple answer, Dr.
If we say that they are not being transferred through the placenta, it means if there is infection of the baby itself, then it could be possible.
So they will make their own antibodies. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. So Dr. Sir Akhlaq and Ramsha is saying thank you, Dr. Shazia, Dr. Ijaz, and Dr. Ashraf. Very well explained many queries, cleared many queries. Any research regarding development of secondary immunity in cases of COVID-19? Secondary immunity. Secondary immunity. If you are asking about COVID infection, who have had infection, so we do not know. They develop antibodies, whether they are protective, we do not know. Yeah. Studies are. During baby resuscitation, our baby secretions can be a source of infection for healthcare workers during baby resuscitation. If they are infected, no or yes, but usually COVID-19 occurs after, so probably they are not infectious. But you should take standard precautions. Is it vertical transmission? We said great presentation, Dr. Shazia, Dr. Ashraf, Dr. If suspected and confirmed are in the same space, wouldn't it put the suspected under greater risk of getting infected if they are not positive previously, as their exposure is increased now?
If suspected and confirmed cases are in the same space, if the infected and question is that if suspected and confirmed cases are in the same space without, wouldn't we put the suspected under a greater risk for getting infected if they were not positive previously? As I mentioned in our Dr. Shazia and we presented that infected patients are they are operated on the negative pressure rooms. They are COVID positive, and all the negative patients, they are not being. We have got a separate facility for that, and that rooms are reserved only for positive patients. Though after the cleaning, we have I didn't mention in as far as if we are going to clean the room can be used. But in our hospital, as a policy, the specific room for COVID positive patients, we are not using for COVID negative patients. And so we are trying to reduce this infection from all aspects when it is possible.
So I think if you just follow the basic things that distancing and wearing a mask is enough, and that will prevent.
Okay. In our setup in L&D, when a patient is COVID suspected, highly suspected, or COVID positive, we place that patient in isolation, and COVID positive in negative pressure delivery suite, where she follow her all labor during all that time, and she will remain in the negative pressure room. For the patients whose COVID result is awaited, they are placed in a separate area, and who turn out to be positive, God knows better. We can't predict in all the asymptomatic patients. And those patients who are COVID negative, they are placed in separate area from those whose results are being awaited, so that they do not intermingle with those patients.
Dr. Shazia, how to counsel and take care of your residents who are facing prolonged exposure and prolonged hours of working?
Okay. Residents, prolonged exposure of a single resident has not occurred in any case, because the residents work there on call. Residents are there from 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. till morning. Otherwise, in the morning, there is a separate group of residents. Similarly, 5 or 6 people are on duty, and they are catering for the different patients. If a pregnant patient is COVID positive, then we assign a single doctor, but even then, that doctor is not in close contact with the patient all the time. You all who are practicing the obstetrics knows very well how often we need to do a per-vaginal examination and examination of the patient. So the nurse and the doctors are coming and going intermittently as need arise. Number 2, sticking to the SOPs, wearing the mask, shield, and all the PPEs, prevent them from getting infected with those patients. This is the question, I think.
So I think just counseling them and providing them, every hospital should have that, because for nurses, paramedics, and doctors as well. Recording will be available on Facebook. Yes, it is available. It will be available. The Fawzia has given suggestion that we should increase our to meet these challenges in capacity building, and tertiary care centers should take the lead, which we hopefully are doing. I think your suggestion is very good, because every hospital, every institution, and every city that we know, they are doing it on their own way, whether it is Shaukat Khana, whether it is PIMS, whether it's Children's Hospital Lahore, whether it's Aga Khan, whether it's SIET. I know all our colleagues are working on it as much as on education, training, and this will go on a long way. I think COVID has done some other positive things as well. What about X-ray for pregnant women if needed in COVID? As a mother would be exposed to X-rays.
You can safely perform the X-ray by applying a lead shield to the abdomen of the mother. Even there are certain studies in the International Journal of Ultrasonography published in 2020 after this COVID pandemic. They say if the patient is critically ill and you think or highly suspected of COVID and the decision making, you need an immediate decision making, even a CT scan can be performed by applying abdominal shield for that patient.
Thank you. Will not surgery put an extra stress on a critically ill patient?
That's why you have to decide between the benefit and the risk. If you have time, the patient is not that bad, and you anticipate an urgent delivery, always try to deliver her normally. But if you are in a hurry, the time is short, the patient is going and she is critically ill, you have to empty the uterus immediately. The shortest way is to take out the baby via cesarean section.
Dr. Alauddin has asked Dr. Ashraf, if patient is PCR positive but asymptomatic, should we wait for negative result to come before proceeding for surgery? For example, TAH, total abdominal hysterectomy.
If you are surgeon, definitely you are in a hurry. If you are an ID consultant, then you are behaving in a different way. If you are an anesthesiologist, you have to balance the things. I'll briefly say that if a patient is a positive, and as per protocol, first, the time period between the first PCR and second test should not be less than 14 days. The patient must be in third week, and after third week, the patient is asymptomatic. And what is the time? 72 hours, patient should be asymptomatic, patient should be temperature free, and at still time, I will say that PCR should be repeated. I'll not go into the serology and all these things because people are still working. There are certain guidelines, though we can say that if serology can be done after in third week, and if it is reactive, we can say that patient is relatively less infective.
Thank you. I think we answered in one of our previous diagnostic webinar as well. So, Sarah Clark, are antibodies in babies routinely developed by COVID positive patients? So antibodies, usually serology in neonates, we do not know much. So it's not being done. So simple. I'm asking about development of memory cells, secondary immunity in COVID patients. So I don't know, is that? We cannot answer this. Memory cells, secondary immunity, we could not understand this, but anyway, development of memory cells in secondary immunity patients. We do not know. I don't think we know about this immunology aspect of COVID so far yet. How do you deal with patients regarding COVID-19 who just arrived in the hospital and about to deliver, and there is no time for history or swab sampling? Doctor, maybe. Patient emergency में आ गए तो उसको deliver करना क्या करेंगे? Swab, no time for swab.
इतना कम टाइम तो नहीं हो, IV लाइन तो डालेंगे, स्वाब भी साथ ही ले लें.
The immediate, as far as I think Dr. Shazia it mentioned it, and I also mentioned my presentation when the patient comes in the obstetric suite, and definitely we cannot wait for taking the swabs and all these things. These patients are supposed to, they are considered as a positive patient, and the maximum precautions, the standard precautions are taken. And even in our labor room and our hospital, we have a practice that even after the delivery, we will take the swab of the patient, and we will consider the patient as a positive, and we will follow the result.
Thank you. We are at the end of the question answer session. Thank you very much. Again, Dr. Shazia and Dr. Ashraf, I think we covered a very important, another aspect of COVID-19. On behalf of Shiva International Hospital and PGME office, I take this pride in that the participation was very good, very interactive, very good questions. Hopefully we have answered a lot of your questions. There are a lot of questions we cannot answer, and we do not, because we do not know the answers yet, not at least in black and white. So there are lots of ifs and buts so far that this pandemic has created. Hopefully you have gained by today's webinar. Your knowledge will have increased. Please communicate all the positive things around your colleagues. Make sure that you follow your protocols, trying to stay safe yourself and your patients and your colleagues and your family. Thank you very much. Hopefully we see you next week. We have next webinar on next Thursday, which is on renal and dialysis, which will be next Thursday, same time. Hopefully see you in large numbers again and with a lot of questions. Thank you very much. Take care. Khuda Hafiz.
Stay home.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.